All right, here is the last thing that we are going to focus on for our mock grant proposals. These are the various charts and what are called the follow-ups. Now, these are separate, but you'll see their relationship here in a bit. The follow-up actually covers more or less the entire project, but you'll see what I mean here in a minute. Charts are very useful to kind of break down in a visual format some of the data that you might be collecting, some of the survey percentages you might be collecting. There are all kinds of charts and graphs that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, especially if you're in the sciences. And these are just kind of standard issue things. I mean, it could be something as simple, as a pie chart. It could be something like a Venn diagram, right, where this overlaps this and this, so these Venn diagrams can be useful. There are also what are called Gantt charts. These list, for example, if you have a timeline, okay, here you have your category, stuff you need to do, and this is time, okay, tracked over the course of a year. So the initial startup will take this amount of time. The division of labor will take here. So what a Gantt chart does, it kind of breaks down time in these little blocks. I'll show you a couple examples of these here in a minute. There are Cartesian graphs, right, that are going to map things. There are all kinds of these charts. Now, very often, in my experience, where are you? Very often, people want to see flow charts. Now, these can be either very frustrating or fairly easy depending on what type of grant you're applying for. But trust me, a lot of places, for whatever reason, ask for flow charts. I think it makes people happy to know that they've made other people waste their time with these darn things. Beyond a doubt, this is my least favorite thing to do in any grant project, are the flow charts and templates. But luckily, there are some. Here, this is SmartDraw. This is I don't know if this is free, but you can see here, you can download different types of flow charts, okay, and then fill in the information in each box that is relevant to your projects, okay? So sometimes you might have to download a free program. I am not asking any of you to pay money to purchase any program. There are going to be tons of these things available. I mean, look at Google. I type in grant schedule template and I get all these different variations. So whenever you are doing your scheduling and temporal, your time scheduling, you can just go to Google, type in if you want to find a flowchart template, flowchart template. Hit Google or hit enter, and you'll find it. This is a Gantt chart right here. Okay, and actually, what's kind of funny is I didn't even choose this. This website is actually run by the guy Stephen Hurd, whose book I am using for the science writing portion of this class. So that's a funny little coincidence. This looks more like a spreadsheet template. Here's a fundraising calendar. There are all kinds of different templates and everything that you can do. Here's a Gantt chart template for Excel. So you can go online and find any of these that you think fits best with your project. Like I said, some of the grants require flow charts. For whatever reason, I've actually applied to grants that required both a flow chart and a Gantt chart. So that was maddening. Anyway, So here, this is just something I just chose randomly off the internet. There's tons of these out there. So if you need a flowchart template, like I said, use Google. Just be careful though, and I want to point this out to you. Be careful with certain websites, especially things where they have pop-ups. Okay, I don't download a lot of things from the internet, and because I'm deathly afraid of computer viruses. So like this, like a website like this, where it says free editable calendar, printable calendar, all this stuff. Anytime something's free, it makes me really nervous because all of these little links might have hidden malware in them. I just found this randomly, but I kind of want to show you when websites look a little, I don't know, lackluster like this, it tends to make me nervous. Okay, so I haven't clicked on any of these because I don't want to screw my computer up. Here's Stephen Hurd's little blog. But he says, timelines and grant proposals are useless. How I put them to use. It's kind of a funny little rant about having to do these things. So you can see here it breaks into meetings. So in April of 2017, we're going to meet on Skype. We're going to talk about literature review. The literature review will overlap the methodology. Then we're going to do sampling trees with a meeting. Notice this. So that is going to, you see how all of these overlap, okay, with each other, so that the funding agency can look and see how long your project is going to last, and do you seem organized enough to get it done, okay? The problem you'll find in setting these things up is that you do have to be realistic. Like I said, if you've got 12 months to do a reasonable project, right, that you're going to, in the first month we're going to do this, in the second month we'll do this, in the third month we'll do this, and then in the fourth month. But I mean, if there's like one thing, if you're not really doing anything for the first 6 months on your schedule list, that's going to cause suspicion. Okay, the grant funding agency will think, well, what are you doing for those first 12 months? We need to figure out what we're doing. That can never go on a schedule, okay? They want it to be fairly detailed. It doesn't have to be down to the day. It could be even like a week by week or month by month, depending on what they're requiring. So usually they'll put those guidelines in there. But this is just something you can choose any number of charts. So if you want to choose a Gantt chart, flow chart, if you want to do a spreadsheet, all of those are fine. Okay, you will find any number of templates through Google. Just type in Gantt template or free Gantt chart template, free flow chart template, and I guarantee you'll find plenty of stuff. Okay, now with follow-up, this is important because very often, and trust me, especially in the last like 5 to 10 years, universities and organizations have been leaning very heavily upon metrics of success. Okay, now the metrics of success differ depending on the grant. Okay, so like let's go back to our like the earlier grant that I tossed off the top of my head, reducing racist representations in South Floridian media. All right. So let's say you set up your budget, okay? You set up your narrative now, and then you set up your schedule. Now, very often the grant funding agencies are going to want to know, how are you going to measure the success of your project? Because, and this is where it actually really gets tricky, because certain projects, right, there's no hard metric to determine, the reduction of racist representation in Floridian media. That's kind of an abstraction. It's specific because it's specific to a place and specific to a medium, okay? But in terms of actually gauging this, that is a little tricky, right? If you're doing something like, especially like in the hard sciences, if you're doing something in chemistry, or you're doing something in biology, those are much easier because your experiment is trying to figure out this. The metrics of that result are, did you figure that out? Did you get the result? If not, why not? Okay. Same thing in biology, more or less. When you get into the social sciences, though, you might say your project might be something like, tracking, let's say, tracking hiring tendencies of women in upper management. Okay, I mean, it's very random. You see how here, these hiring tendencies, because we have tendencies, right? It's a little bit abstract. So in that case, how you have to figure out as a team, how are you going to track the success of your project? For us, I don't want you to necessarily labor on this too much, because these are mock grants and I don't want you doing unnecessary work. But I would challenge you to try to, for your grant projects, to try to think of 3 things, 3 ways, or 3 methods, 3 metrics, whatever those be, or a combination of any of these. How would you track the success of a project like the one you're about to do? Okay. For example, tracking success in teaching, right? Student evaluations, job performance, innovation in the classroom. There are all kinds of metrics that they apply to us. If I apply for promotion, there are all kinds of metrics, lots of them, that they use to judge, well, should we promote this person? Okay. So these are just things, these will help make you more and more aware of your project itself. Okay. Because if you're trying to solve something real, something tangible, right, out there in the world, in your community, that the reality and the tangibility of what you're trying to solve, right, should be available to you in some way. It should be obvious in some way how that can be measured. Certain things can't. So for example, if I'm looking for a grant in the humanities to travel to, let's say, I don't know, Turkey or whatever, to go take photographs, how am I going to measure the success of my project? Did they give me money? Well, that I took some photographs, right? But I can be a little bit more creative, and I can try to say something like, well, did I produce a body of photographs? Did I increase cultural connections? Did I, and you can go down this list, and you can be a little bit creative and kind of think of these criteria that you believe are going to help to measure the success of your grant project. Now, like I said, depending on which grant you choose, depending on which field you work in, these are all going to be a little bit different. But for these projects, for you guys, like I said, the major things I want you focusing on are the narrative, the budget, and the schedule. Okay, these three things, the follow-up metrics of success, I do want you to include these. Okay, I do want you to include three of them. But like I said, these are not super critical for us because these are mock grant projects and not real projects yet. Okay. So that's what I want you all to try to do in your groups. Now I'll be assigning groups here soon. Like I said, that'll be 4 to 5 people. And then each of you can discuss, have a meeting, schedule a meeting, go through some ideas, do some research on possible grants, okay? Now, I will say this. If some of you actually do have research grants in mind already, and you want to try to use the group work for these grants, I don't mind that. That is technically not, it's not plagiarism or anything, but I would say this. If you use the current grant proposal that we're doing for class for a real grant proposal, okay, currently or later in your career, okay, so you're all going to have access to this grant material. I would say this, just for ethical reasons, if you try to use parts of the grant project for class for real grants later or currently, please ask the people in your group, okay? Make sure that they are okay with it before you use everybody else's work. Now, for the purposes of the class, clearly, that's not a big deal because that's the assignment. But we do want to be respectful to each other, and so you don't want to steal everybody else's work and present it as your own, okay? That would technically be unethical. It's not, I would argue, if you just get everybody in the group's approval to use parts or all of the grant proposal project. In that case, I think that would be okay. So set up a meeting, kick around some ideas, do a little research. Like I said, assign roles. Who's going to do the draft? Okay, assign roles. Set up a schedule. Every week, okay, you're doing some of the work. Now, maybe one of you does the main writing, okay? One of you does the editing. One of you starts working on the budget. One of you starts working on maybe the the grant schedule. Okay, so trying to set up the grants for 6 months. Okay, and you set up a little Gantt chart and all this. So somebody starts working on that. Somebody else starts working on the follow-up questions. And then what you can do is you can all, when you meet again, you can exchange the documents. Okay, exchange documents. Maybe she hands the budget over to her. She hands the chart over to him, just for review, just for kind of proofreading. Okay, so that you're all collaborating and you're all interacting. I don't want anybody to come out of this group project feeling like they did too much or somebody else wasn't doing enough. Okay, I leave that responsibility to all of you. You're all adults. I'm not going to micromanage you. And like I said, in group work, let's be honest. Let's be honest for a moment. There's usually a couple people who do a lot more of the work. Okay, that's neither fair nor unfair. It's just how group work is. Okay, trust me. Even at my level, my age, I find this all the time. I tend to be a kind of overproductive person in group work. So I don't take it personally if other people are doing less than me. It's just like, I know I'll do more anyway, so whatever. Okay. But this is actually it's really useful in terms of just a life skill to learn to work collaboratively with other people, because very often in teams and jobs and universities, you're not going to be doing grant work by yourself. Okay, you're going to be doing it as a group. And so learning to work with each other, learning to be respectful of one another, and also learning to be politely critical of each other, I think is actually a really valuable skill. I know that I don't take criticism very well from others, so it's a skill that I've been working on my entire life, because everything I do is perfect, right? And so therefore, nobody has any reason or right to criticize anything I do, and no, I'm kidding. Right? So we all make mistakes, we all have oversights, we all miss things, okay? It's nice to actually have another pair of eyes on the things that we're doing, right? Because then it takes some of that pressure off you to be correct in everything. So learning to work well with others and learning, and plus it allows you to make more friends. It allows you to meet more people. It allows you to network. The people in these groups might later turn out to help you out down the road in a research project, or you guys might actually all collaborate on a grant or something in the future. Who knows, right? So I think it's just a good little team building exercise, community building exercise, and networking exercise, as well as a good, valuable skill to have going forward in life and in your career. Because grant writing, I promise you, is very valuable, it's very useful, and it's something that most of you will probably use going forward. So I hope that helps, and thank you very much.